Ich wäre übrigens zur selben Konklusion gekommen. Ich glaube, der große Challenge ist, sich wieder zu konzentrieren auf die wesentlichen Dinge. Ich sage das als Überleitung zu unserem nächsten Gast. Was heißt das für die Telekom-Branche? Was heißt das für Ihre Dienstleistungen? Ich freue mich dazu, nun jemanden von Ericsson begrüßen zu dürfen. Es ist Sofia Isacsson. Sie ist Head of Solution Line Communication Services bei Ericsson AB. Good morning.
Thank you all. So, as introduced, my name is Sofia Isacsson. I'm responsible for the communication services portfolio in Ericsson, which constitutes pretty much all kinds of solutions working with person-to-person communication, so voice, messaging, video, and whatever will come after that. And coming into Bern yesterday, I had a bit of an awkward experience, making me feel it was a bit ironic what I was going to speak about today, because my data connection was so bad I couldn't purchase a train ticket. I couldn't chat with my colleagues on Teams in Switzerland to know where I was going. So in the end, I had to make a phone call to Sweden, to my assistant, to ask her to chat with the people in Switzerland to tell me where I was going. It was some problems with selecting which roaming partner, so I don't know exactly which network this was on. I'm hoping it was temporary, but I'm super happy anyway that the traditional communication of a normal phone call and an SMS worked. So, but I'm here today to share my thoughts on how communication will transform going forward. In Ericsson, we have currently a motto called Imagine Possible. What could be possible with 5G is what we're talking about then. And when I'm thinking about it, I see that there are a lot of things happening right now. One thing being a behavioral shift that we're all part of, and also then the changes in the industry and technologies, but also in the device ecosystem. And these three, I believe, will play together very nicely in time, and thereby transform the way we communicate going forward. So, starting with a behavioral change, a lot of people talked about their kids. I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son, and many years ago, when they started communicating with friends, I remember that I felt it was quite weird, because they were recording video messages and sending to their friends in different channels, and they were studying late nights, with friends on video calls and video conferences, and I was like, ooh, this is scary. I did use video conferencing occasionally to talk to my husband, but only with a front-facing camera to show him something, like being in a toy store, showing him the Lego boxes being available, and discussing which to choose for our son for Christmas. But I felt super awkward being on the video myself. Now, this has for sure changed over the last 2.5 years with the pandemic. Now I use video much, much more. Before, it looked like this. Whenever I was at work, I'm going to interact with a person. We had a physical face-to-face meeting, and whatever determined when we were going to meet or how we were going to meet was if there was a room available. If there wasn't a room available, you rescheduled and took it 2 days later. You know, you had to have a room. But if they weren't in the same site, you picked up the phone and you made a normal phone call. That's how you communicated with people who were not close to you. How many of you used video calls 3 years ago, daily or so in your work? A couple? Yeah. How many do it today after the pandemic? Quite a few more. I do it daily, and I actually do video calls much more than I do face-to-face calls. Maybe because my team is spread out over 4 different countries, so it's natural. But the people who are on other sides, they have told us that the communication has become so much better during and after the pandemic. Before, they were on a phone line for all our all-employee meetings, or they were in all meetings, they were maybe calling in, and maybe they were on video, but they didn't really see us, so they felt it was not working well. Now they think it's great. So we can't really go back and do these meetings bad for them again. We are pretty much doing hybrid meetings or one-on-one meetings then with a video. So before in Ericsson, we used to talk about mobile first. Being in Ericsson, of course, having a mobile, you can work, you can do anything you like. And it hurts a bit to say, for me, currently, it's Teams first. Because I need the video. And there isn't any operator-provided video service in Sweden that I can even do a one-to-one call with. And everyone I talk to agreed that the video is so much superior to the normal phone call, as you heard just in the recent presentation. You get the facial expression of the person you're talking to, and you can see how well the message lands. Whatever you're saying, how does the people you're talking to perceiving what you're saying? So you need the video, basically. This is one important change that I think is going to impact how we communicate. Then looking at more the industry and the technology evolution, of course, as I said, 5G, when you're working in Ericsson, that's what we're looking at. 5G is picking up very rapidly around the world. We forecast that by the end of the year, 1 billion subscribers globally will actively be using 5G. This is 2 years faster than the 4G uptake was happening. And as you may know, data provides, of course, much faster data, more data, lower latency, better quality, more quality of service mechanisms, etc. This means that a lot of industries, other companies, governments, etc., are seeking to find the benefits of 5G in digitalizing their business processes and becoming more efficient and effective and competitive. And one example, which I think is a great example of manufacturing industry utilizing 5G in transforming based on the Industry 4.0 principles. These are autonomous guided vehicles. You probably have heard about those, who are then used to transport material either in manufacturing or post-manufacturing in material and logistics handling. And these AVGs are transmitting their position in real time, constantly. And if you are to orchestrate a whole fleet of these, not just 1 and 2, it's super important that they don't collide. So it's very important with the low latency and reliability of the network. And it's used in many countries like Germany, US, Estonia, etc. today. One good example is Daimler manufacturing, where they're having the half-made cars transported throughout the assembly line using these AVGs. And then when you have half-made cars on them, you for sure don't want them to collide. So super important with the network reliability and low latency here. So this is then what the networks can provide and how they are changing. But then there is another important change that I want to highlight. And I think it's going to be super important as well. And that's in the device ecosystem transformation. So I'm confident that in only a few years, we will see a new major device type entering the market and growing in volumes. Anyone who wants to guess which one I'm thinking about? Just shout out loud. Anyone who? Yes, exactly. So the smartphones, the substitution rate of smartphones is going down, while smartwatches is actually still growing in volume. I have to admit, when smartwatches came, I didn't really believe it was going to be a success, but I was wrong. There was something with the timing of the smartwatches. It was coming at a good time. For example, there was this health trend of people wanting to start counting steps. And usually these behavioral changes has a much stronger impact on what becomes successful than technology evolution. And that's why I'm confident that the smartphones and the smartwatches will be soon complemented by the smart glasses entering the market. The form factor evolution of smart glasses or AR glasses, as most of the innovation projects and the development is around, has been quite impressive. Over only a few years, it has gone from being some kind of alien-type headsets, which weigh more than half a kilo, to being more like normal glasses or sunglasses, around 80 grams. And if you want to go even further, since some years back, there's been research on the AR lenses, which was already mentioned earlier. But just the fact that we are close now to something that can be designed in a really nice way and be desirable in look and feel, glasses, sunglasses, makes me believe that this is really going to be something that is going to start picking up in volume soon. And I know a number of iconic companies that have launches in the pipeline to come with glasses. Some of them will, of course, fail. Some will succeed. But I think the direction is quite clear, the direction we're going in. I also just want to mention the lady in the middle here. Her name is Natalia. She's the development lead and technical lead in an innovation project in Ericsson, working with Holographic Communication. They are around 10 people, quite a lot of students in that team, and they are working with both research, innovation, trying to find new ways to come around barriers or hinders like a compression pipeline, etc. And also, in parallel, interacting with standardization. So, yeah, really impressive. And they're also working with the device vendors of these glasses to try to optimize the performance of use cases across the device and the network, to make sure that then the use cases can actually be achievable and reach the market. So what kind of use cases can you then do? Now, I've talked about the behavioral change, the network changes, technology changes, and the device ecosystem changes or transformation that's ongoing. It may sound a bit futuristic with the glasses, and it's a bit hard to predict what use cases it will be, but in Ericsson, we have categorized them into 4 categories of use cases that we see are driving this evolution and also has the potential to monetize, to be monetized, which I think is important for the industry to follow along. If that doesn't happen, you know, industry isn't really going to invest in it. And the categories are gaming, social interaction, shopping, and the virtualization of the workspace. And communication services that I work with are important parameters in all of these. You know, gaming with other parties, for example, social communication is quite obvious. Shopping can be if you want guided shopping, personal shopping, things like that. But the interesting, or the use case that most people I talk to find most interesting is in the enterprise space, and that is in field services or remote support. Because here you can, I think it's because of the cost saving, it's quite natural. You can have an expert sitting centrally and then have field engineers being less experienced and maybe cheaper to be guided by the expert sitting centrally. Or you can save cost in saving time in customer care call centers by using AR, for example, in explaining things and showing which cable they should plug in where, etc. So those are I would say, I see a great potential in. Then there are, of course, a number of challenges that has to be overcome for this to be successful. The smart glasses or AR glasses are not like VR glasses that are quite static in the location where you use them. AR glasses are expected to be used everywhere. And also, there is a lot more data to be streamed upwards in the network as well. So a lot more requirements on the network and the uplink, etc. We have to figure out how to do quality of service, how to manage the battery lifetime of the glasses. We probably need to move some compute into the phone or the edge of the network to make it work. But all of these things are things that are quite natural for us to work with as an industry to evolve the technology and tune the networks. And so I'm pretty certain those things will be sorted out fairly quickly. But then there is also other things that I'm not an expert of, how to handle, for example, privacy. This is, with the front-facing camera, what do you capture on the video? How do we handle that kind of data? How do we store it? Where do we store it? Do we have to clean it, etc.? And the last one, I think, is the most important one that we, as an industry, spend some effort on to make these use cases successful: interoperability and global reach. To avoid only siloed use cases that you can use with only one device or one app or one even operator. Because such use cases tend to be less successful. People want it to be ubiquitous, to have global reach, to be able to talk to any friend that you may have, not on a specific app or device or operator. So here I definitely think, well, early on, in the early years, we will see vertical use cases being launched with a certain device or a certain app or a certain operator maybe even. But long term, I think we as an industry has an important job to do to find out how to handle this global reach and interoperability with regulation, standardization, and cross-industry collaboration to figure this out. And one of the more generic use cases that would benefit quite a lot from this is holographic communication that Natalia was working with, that I said. And for those of you who don't see it, the lady in the picture is a hologram. As said, it may be a bit futuristic, but in the next presentation we will hear about, I think, how some of this will come into play. And also, Ericsson demonstrated already in February holographic communication in Mobile World Congress. And we've also had in the interaction with 3GPP standardization to include this already in 5G, because we can prove that with some quite impressive compression techniques that we are able to compress a 2 gigabit data stream into a 50 megabit data stream. And with this being done already now in the early days of this industry, we see that this for sure can be done and used quite well in 5G. So we've also brought this here with us to the demo area outside. You can go and watch this and see how it's playing out. I know it's early, but I still think it's quite interesting to get a peek of what the future of communication may look like. And for those of you who may be interested, you can also read about it on the Ericsson homepage. If you Google or search for ericsson.com, holographic communication, you can actually read about the experiments they're doing in this innovation project when they are looking at, for example, tuning certain quality of service mechanisms. They share what happens with the data, amount of data to be transmitted and how it's handled and the performance of the service in the network, etc. So you're welcome to read and learn. And I hope this is going to be something we see in only a few years from now.
Thanks very much, Sofia Ericsson. No, not Ericsson. From Ericsson, but Isacsson. I have one question from the audience for you. And the question is about the glasses. Will there be a combination of smart glasses with the focus glasses so you can also have the correction of your weaknesses of the eyes?
I would assume so. I mean, I think the earlier cases will, I mean, the ones that are being now innovated on are, of course, more focusing on the AR experience and what you can place in the screen, like getting directions, etc., or whatever augmented reality you get into there. But I would assume it could be possible. It would be a bit further out in time. Yeah. That would be my guess.
I would like to refer to Lucienke because what he said really seems to me to be the main challenge for the future, our ability to concentrate and to focus instead of all this bombardment of information. How do you see that as an element of the future of all this technology?
Yeah, well, I have to admit that I have a son at home who I wish actually would do less of this. But on the other hand, he's also the one in the family who's mixing most of what we're doing. Whenever we're doing something in real life and having an adventure, he picks up on something that we can play based on what he's learned. So he's still got the imagination. I haven't seen it happening there, but yeah, that's a good question. I would say that at least the glasses would encourage more of social interaction in real life than the phone and the screen does, because then you're looking down and not at someone in real life. But with the glasses, you can get the interaction with the real life person at the same time if you want to consume.
So you think we will walk around with the glasses all the time?
I think you will get glasses that you will be using all the time, because both of the fashion part of it, but also you'll get used to having it. But probably I would guess you could turn the AR function on and off. So whether you want to have them communicating or only wear them as glasses.
Thank you very much. And now let's have a break, take a coffee. Thank you very much for being here, Sofia Isacsson.
Thank you.